When we last checked in, we were in Sebring, Florida for an Audi Sport test. On display were new versions of the R18. We wanted to learn more about these new cars, so we went looking for Dr. Wolfgang Ullrich, head of Audi Sport.
Maybe first a little bit of small technical overview. The 2012 cars, the R18 Ultra, is a development done for this year. The target was to use last year's car, which been racing for the very last time here in Sebring, as a base, but reduce the weight by about 80 kilograms minimum, because we knew that the hybrid system itself weighs roughly about that. And you know, in motorsport, additional weight is the biggest penalty you can get, and therefore the target was to reduce the already lightweight R18 from last year, to reduce the weight by again close to 100 kilograms, which was a big task. It was a good example to do in motorsport the Ultra concept. That means going to minimum weight with maximum strength, which is as well the target in our road cars for the future. Our idea for this year is to have the new e-tron Quattro running, which is the same car than the Ultra, but a hybrid system installed. It's a hybrid system that takes its energy and puts its energy back on the front axle. That means the rest of the car is identical to the Audi Ultra, but the e-tron Quattro just has an additional front wheel axle driven by electric energy that earlier has been recovered during braking, which normally on a car is today wasted energy. But we tried to use this energy that can be collected during braking and put it back into acceleration after the corners. The rule book now, after they know from former time how good our Quattro system has worked and that it was always an advantage in racing to have it, like it is an advantage to have it on the road car, they now change the rule book a little bit to take away some of the positive effects of a Quattro system. One is that, for example, we are not allowed to put power down at speeds lower than 120 k's. The intention is clear. They want to have us out of the corners without using the Quattro and just using it on the straights where the advantage of the Quattro system itself isn't there as much anymore. It's still something positive to distribute power on all four wheels, but a better acceleration out of corners is not possible. And therefore I also call it, sometimes it's a part-time Quattro. But the good thing is in our road cars, and there you will find in the future this concept as well, there we can use it with all the advantages of the Quattro. There you will find as well on one axle the combustion engine, the other axle electrically driven, and the combination of all these four driven wheels could be a perfect system for the future. The decision to go for the e-tron Quattro was taken in January, because we said we need to come on a certain level with the development before we decide to go with this year to Le Mans, or maybe we go next year to Le Mans. The good thing is we had planned it from quite a long period of time before. And then we decided, before the inscription of the ACO, to go with the hybrid system in parallel to the standard TDI cars. We unfortunately had to learn that Peugeot had pulled out, but we could then convince the people from Toyota, which planned already to come into the championship, to move into it more intensely, which is for sure good for endurance racing. Why 2 cars each? I think the best explanation was last year's race. After a race like this, you'll never go with 1 car per concept into that race if you really want to have a chance to finish with that. And I think 2 cars each is an acceptable solution. It is for sure an additional challenge, but to make this on a level of acceptable workload, we have taken the decision to have the basic car from the Audi Ultra and the Audi e-tron Quattro completely identical. The difference is only that the e-tron Quattro has the additional hybrid system in, but the rest of the 2 cars is completely identical, and therefore we race basically one and the same car, but 2 of them have an additional hybrid system where the specialists for the hybrid system can concentrate on, and the other 2 cars we can race with all the experience that we had from the last years. We have the same minimum weight, and therefore we had to develop the car to a weight where with the hybrid in we are at the weight limit, which means that the car where there is no hybrid in is a very light car, and this car you can nicely play with putting the additional weight on the right places to make a very nice equilibrium from weight distribution. The energy storage system is on the co-driver position in the car. This was as well one of the reasons why we have decided to put it on the front wheels, because we think that if you put such a system in the car and you put it in the rear of the car where you have already the engine, then maybe it's a little bit more difficult to come to a good weight distribution. On the other hand, you have the disadvantage that you have to do additional drive shafts, that you have an additional driven axle, but we hoped that we could use it for the advantage of the Quattro system, which now is already a little bit restricted by the rule book.
Would you like to see less rules about when you can use all-wheel drive in sports car? At Le Mans or in the WEC?
This is difficult to discuss. We are convinced that four-wheel drive, that the Quattro system is something that gives an advantage to the users on the road, wherever they drive. Is it on tarmac, is it under bad weather conditions, whatever. It is for sure a winning concept, and it is not allowed at present because it was banned in '97 from racing after all the successes we had. So I'm really carefully there. For sure we would like to have it back, but I know that all the authorities watch it very careful because it is so successful. The Audi's knowledge page on the Quattro is a key factor because we invented it and we've been running it very successful in rallying. We've been running it here in the United States in IMSA GTO. We've been racing it in Germany in DTM with the V8s, and we've been racing it with the super touring cars all over the world. So we have collected so much experience with how to use the four-wheel drive to its best for racing, that all the others that tried could not come on the level and use the advantages on the same level that we did, and therefore they all stopped. And we have been still going on successful. The hybrid cars that we will use energy that we give into the cars more efficient than today is a target everybody is intensively developing on for our environment, for using of energy, and for the health of all the people on this great planet we live on. Racing is a good chance to do pre-development of technologies that are future-orientated, and Audi Motorsport and Audi Sport has done it since a very long period of time, and I think we have done it very successfully because all these technology have been coming back to the road cars some years later, and the input that we have given is for sure not exactly the one that brought it in the road cars, because this is done by our partners that are working in the road car development. But if you push the technology in motorsport to a level where you can be competitive, you touch quite some limits of these technologies, and if you touch limits you always learn a lot. Motorsport, the way Audi is using this, brings quite a lot for the improvement of the technologies of the road cars in the future that we make available to the Audi customers.
And that, as they say, is that. There's an accident a little bit later with Timo Bernhard in an R18 Ultra. Audi Sports test day was over, and so was ours. We packed up and headed out.
This was the start of the race weekend. We had good performance in all of our cars, and we've been ready to fight for these 24 hours. When we then, after about half of the race, we had lost two of them, we have been really in a not so nice situation, because it was one left against all the others, and this was a very difficult situation. But I have to say, the spirit that we have in our team and the spirit that we have built up through many years of racing together helped us immensely, because after these two very bad situations that we had, ending up quite positively for the drivers, fortunately, we have been all quite down, knowing first that these accidents have been really heavy ones, and there was always quite some time between the accident and the definitely knowledge that the most important thing, which is the driver's fine, is sure and safe. It was for all the people tremendous stress not to know what's going on with the driver, because they are part of our family, and it's not just a driver, it's one of us, and we just want to make sure that they are fine. Especially at the second accident, when it happened with Rocky, it took very long until we really knew what's going on, because the informations have been very bad. It was in an area where no camera was, you couldn't see really what's going on. We had lost from the very first moment radio contact, which always you don't know what it means. Either he can't repeat, or he is not connected anymore. Both can be negative, and we didn't get any feedback, so we have been concerned because we just had not good information. And it took quite some time until I received a telephone call from the race director, which told me, calm down, Rocky left the car by itself. He's lying in the grass behind the guardrail. I can't tell you that he's 100% fine, but he could leave the car by himself, which for sure was for all of our guys a first relief. But then you don't know what's really going on with him, and it took another 15-20 minutes until we really knew that he's fine. And at the end, the final message I received from Jean-Claude Plassard and Jean Todt personally, because they both went to him in the medical area and talked to him and came immediately to me and told me, we've been talking to him, he's fine. And then, okay, we said, come on guys, now we have one car, we have to fight all the others, and all the engineers from the other cars, and even the drivers said, we stay here, now we have one car, and all the staff will fight to make this car win, because this is our aim now. And this was really something that you could feel how it was getting everybody even much closer together, focus much more. For sure you can't use the full team for 3 cars for 1 car, it is not really helping. But many of them we just could use to sit aside people that have been watching data. 4 eyes always see more than 2. So everybody was ready to put his personal commitment into that. And at the end, because of that, I think we made it. And the value of the victory was a very high one, because it was the most difficult one. If you have only one, there is only one strategy to go for. It's to be faster than they are, if you want to win this race. If you say, okay, for me it's good enough if I make the podium, then maybe you could think about, is it better to go a little bit more on the fuel saving side and being more cautious and blah blah blah. But we didn't have the choice. We had to commit it, and we wanted now, after all that what happened, more than ever to win this race. If we are behind and we have to overtake him, we're in a very bad situation. Because if he is fighting us very hard, he has 3 other guys that can win.
No.
But we're alone. And therefore it was clear we have to be in front of them. And try to escape, and then try to keep the constant distance and not taking too many risks. This was the mix for the last stint, which was not an easy one. For sure this was the most difficult victory we ever had. We had already quite some difficult ones, but this was the most difficult one, and I have to say it was especially from the mental side the most demanding one, because we had highs and lows in such an extreme, in such a short period of time, going up and down, and you just feel this. I have to say, I'm used to 24 hours, but this year it took me nearly a week really to get the feeling now you again 100%.